Ladies and gentlemen, you're now tuned into Chat City with P. Ross. Conversations and interviews are in the queue. Listen or join in. Here she is, P. Ross.
Good afternoon, early evening, all of that. Welcome to Oak 93.5 WRLY. We are here today with Chat City with P. Ross. I am your guest host today, filling in for P. Ross, Tameka, and I have some wonderful people in the studio with me on today. I have our co-host on today, Mr. Will Quick.
What's happening, everybody?
He's here, and we have a special guest. I'm so excited about her, none other than Miss Stephanie Knowlin. So I know you all are going to enjoy the show on today. You are in for a treat, so don't log off of Facebook Live. Don't touch that radio dial, but tune in for Chat City with P. Ross. Today, we're going to be talking with Miss Stephanie, and I know that some of the things that she'll have to say today will indeed inspire you, because she is certainly a person who inspires me. Miss Stephanie has children. She has grandchildren. She does so much in the community, so much for others. And I believe wholeheartedly that we need more people like her. You're going to enjoy hearing from her on today. Also, let me tell you this. If you're in your car, go ahead, turn to Oak 93.5, or if you're leaving work, you're on a late lunch like me, whatever you're doing, go ahead and join us on Oak 93.5. If you're at home, tell Alexa, Oak 93.5, listen live, and you can listen to us on today. We're glad that you're here. Welcome. So again, I have with me in the studio, Miss Stephanie Knowlin, and I'm going to ask Stephanie, would you just tell the audience a little bit about you? Who is Stephanie Knowlin?
Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. Well, my name is Stephanie Knowlin. I am a native of actually a small town called Leland, North Carolina, but I am a North Carolinian, and I've been in Raleigh for about 30 plus years, and I have 3 grown, beautiful children, and I have 6 grandchildren and 1 great grand. So that's a little about myself, and I've been in Wake County 30 plus years, and it's been a pleasure living here.
Wow. Outstanding. I know that you have a great relationship with your children. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting them yet. Mm-hmm. One day, I hope to. If they're anything like you, I know that they are phenomenal men and women.
Thank you.
Stephanie, you and I had the opportunity to meet through church.
Yes.
And then I had the opportunity to travel with you about 2 years ago for the first time.
Yes.
And that was to Belize. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I know about you and that I love about you is that you do travel. You are willing to do missions work, and that certainly has been an inspiration to me. Tell us a little bit about your travels. You've gone a lot of places.
Well, yes, I have, and I never actually thought that this was going to be a passion of mine. I started my traveling journey a little bit, which was kind of a forced thing when I was married. My ex-husband was in the military, so I got a chance to travel with him and travel to Europe and places like that. But when the opportunity presented itself for me to go overseas, just kind of like on my own to do some missions work, now that was a totally different thing. And my first trip was to Thailand, to Pattaya, Thailand. Wow. Which was totally amazing. We did a various number of things, but the group that I worked with was out of Arizona. But, we just connected with that group when the opportunity presented itself. And when I went over there, our goal was to share the gospel. Mm-hmm. Our goal was to be able to just present the love of Jesus while we were there. And we worked with women that didn't know Jesus. They were prostitutes. That's the only lifestyle that they had. Mm-hmm. And so we got the opportunity to present Jesus if they accepted Jesus, but to begin to help them be able to transition out of that lifestyle. Sure. Not only that, we got the opportunity as well to be able to minister to young children that were being used and abused as well and prostituted. And because of the poverty, because of the corruption in the government, it was a norm. And so being able to actually go to another country, experience a different culture, different lifestyle, it was truly amazing. And so that kind of gripped my heart from the very beginning.
Absolutely, because one of the things that I find that travel does is it gives you the ability to see the other side of it and to just learn different cultures, to even get out there and learn other languages. I found myself when going to different countries, getting out there and trying to learn how to say the basics. Hello, thank you.
Yes.
How was your day?
Yes.
So it just exposes you to more and seeing a different side of it. When I think about Thailand, and in fact, one of my friends went yesterday. I saw her
Oh,
say
wow.
on Facebook, "Wheels up." Thailand. And I'm like, okay. And so it's a place that people do go, but I didn't know much about the other side of it until I heard about your experience in Thailand. And I don't think a lot of people know that side of it, the child, just the child endangerment and what happens over there. So what was that like? What did you find yourself coming back thinking about some of the things that you saw while you were there?
Well, definitely, because it impacts you. It really does impact you. And so while I was there, just being out in the streets, in the communities, and to be quite honest, there weren't a lot of African Americans there. They had never seen some of us, to be quite honest. And so there was a curiosity about us, but there was a curiosity for us about them, and seeing, things that we take for granted primarily, just family, first of all, mothers and fathers that will actually take care of you and want the best for you, as opposed to for what they were, for their survival, they had to use the children. Basically, they had to sell their children into this, into the child labor, pretty much. Same thing with, the young women, in order for them to survive, they had to prostitute themselves, and, when we think about, our society and, what gets people into those types of things, it's not your family. You're not, trying necessarily to support your family. Sometimes you are, but that's not the norm, And so, yes, when we got back, it affects your heart. It affects, your thinking and your mindset. And we take so much for granted here in the United States.
Absolutely.
We take a lot of things for granted. And to see that, it makes your heart bleed, and you want to be able to figure out, how can I help? How can I make a difference in these individuals' lives? And so, even when you come back here, one of the things is talking about it. One of the things is sharing your experiences and letting them know, that there are needs. And yes, I'm not trying to take it away from the needs that are here in the U.S. by any means, because I know there are needs as well here. But I know one of the things that I found when I went to Africa was that they loved seeing African Americans come over there, because traditionally it's always been Caucasians. It's always been white ministries that go into those countries, and we're very, very rarely seen.
Yes.
And so when they see us, it's like, oh, you look like me.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Though they call me a Mazunga, but you look like me. You know what I'm saying? And they love seeing that. And they've asked, why don't more African Americans come, to Africa?
To that point, I've heard some discussion, never been to Africa before, but I've heard that there's some, as we call ourselves, identify as African Americans now, I've heard that there can be some animosity towards true native Africans versus what we would consider to be our generational brothers and sisters, so to speak. Did you ever run across any of that when you were over there?
I did not.
Oh, that's great.
I did not. They were so friendly, so welcoming to us, from the, the Uber drivers, and we had a different one pretty much every day, just being able to talk, and they could always tell by my speech, our accents, that we were not, from the country. Sometimes, they could look, they couldn't always look at us,
Right.
But when we opened up our mouths, they could tell.
Right. Yeah.
And, but no, my experience was that they were always very, very friendly, very, very welcoming. Love to talk with us, and just like we would ask questions, they would ask questions of us, while we were there. So, I did not experience that at all.
And that was one of the trips that she also we went on together, which was Kenya, which was about 2 weeks ago. We went to Nairobi, Kenya, and that was my experience as well. The Kenyans, in particular, were very welcoming.
Nice.
I didn't have any negative encounters. Most of them thought I was. They thought I was African. A lot of them said, "Oh, you look like you could be Nigerian," and they, of course, until I talked. So I found them to be some of the most pleasant people. The only parts of Africa that I've been to is Kenya, so I can only speak to Kenyans. They were some of the most welcoming and pleasant people, and as she mentioned, just glad to see us come over because of the population we served, and many of the individuals that we encountered have far less than we do in America. For them, it gives them hope when Americans come, when just us coming over all of that body of water, willing to fly out there, it gives them a hope that is just unimaginable for us. So I too can agree that no negative encounters in terms of why are you here. It was hopeful for them. So I can agree with that. What would you say, kind of what stemmed your desire to do missions? Where did that come from?
I think, primarily, being a Christian, and as you grow in Christ, as you learn the gospel, as you learn, kind of the mandate that, we have as believers, part of it was that. And then, it gave me an opportunity to get outside of my comfort zone.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time now, if you ever get the opportunity, because just as I'm sharing, with individuals, they say, oh, I want to go to so-and-so, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. Sometimes people think that it's out of reach, and it's not. Mm-hmm. It really is not out of reach. To be able to plan, to go, to another country, to learn about their culture. It's not that far out of reach, but some people think that it is. And if you get the opportunity, go, is what I always tell them, because it will add a growth to you as an individual that you're just not going to get, being closed in or staying in the box, here in the United States. So I think for me, like I said, being able to share and getting outside of my comfort zone, even though I had traveled before, it was a totally different, purpose when I was, married and, in the military. The government sent you there, but to really go on your own, that's a totally different, ballpark. And so, yeah, getting outside of my comfort zone and doing something, that just everybody won't do, can do sometimes, but just won't do and won't, branch out there. And the scripture tells us, you to go ye therefore, into all the world, spread the gospel, teach all nations, baptizing them. That's what the scripture tells us to do. And so as a believer, that was part of the reason as well.
Outstanding. Good afternoon again, listeners. You're listening to Oak 93.5 WRLY. Talking fast. Welcome our Facebook listeners. Whether you're listening on your way home, whether you're taking a late lunch, you stay tuned because we have some great things in store for you. I am Tameka Douglas, your host, filling in today for P. Ross, and I have in the studio with me Miss Stephanie Knowlin, as well as our co-host on today, Mr. Will Quick. All right. So, Stephanie, you've lived in another country. That's something that most would never do or consider doing. What was that like? Because one of the things that I know that you did was, it wasn't necessarily that you planned in January that I'm going to live in another country in July. Mm-hmm. It was kind of a short-term type thing, and you just moved to another country for a period of time, mm-hmm. and live there. So you put things aside here and you moved to another country to serve others. What was it like getting outside of America and living there? I'm not talking about the 2 weeks we spent in Africa or right. the 2 weeks in Belize that was temporary. Living there. What was that like?
Yeah. It was, as I thought about it initially, it was kind of scary. But again, it gets you out of that comfort zone. I guess it was another level for me, mm-hmm. to be able to go and to stay there. And it helps if you're not by yourself. Now, it wasn't something that I did completely by myself. I went with my sister, so that helped. And to be quite honest, she's a lot more adventurous than I am. But being there, being a part every day, waking up, being in the culture, and I must say it does make you appreciate home because they had some challenges there while I was there. Things like there's something they have called load shedding. Well, with the load shedding, the government pretty much controls the power, how long it's going to stay on, how long it's going to stay off. You could be in the mall, going down the escalator, and it'll stop. And so you just have to make your way on down, just physically walk. And
so like when you say load shedding, that's like with the electricity and the power.
Yes,
Okay,
yeah,
we get some of those in some places here in the States.
Yeah, but this has been going on since 2010, and it's progressively getting worse. And so, as Americans, if our power for the most part goes out, it's because we haven't paid our bill. But that's just part of what actually takes place, what happens while you're there. But life goes on. There are no issues. The traffic lights will stop. It's a 4-way stop then. The people are very, very respectful. The actual, when it came to the actual housing, that's a little bit different as far as how their houses and things are built. But you got used to it. The weather while we were there was perfect, to be quite honest. It wasn't a whole, lot of change other than it was wintertime there in June. Mm-hmm. And for us here, it was like 90-degree weather.
Yeah.
Almost 100-degree weather.
In
I kept
June.
hearing about, But
Oh, yeah.
there, it was a mild 50, 60. It was beautiful weather. But they were freezing. But
It's all relative.
yeah, it is. But I think for the most part, it was just, learning how to, deal with just the normal everyday interaction, the language, but primarily everyone spoke, English. And so except for when, we would go, we met a number because Johannesburg, that's where I was such a diverse culture. You met people from all over, to be quite honest. I met people from all the other countries. I met people from the Congo, from Ghana, just all over. And South Africa was the place where a lot of them would come to earn a living because their countries were so small. Malawi, a lot of the other countries were very, very small. There's a lot of poverty, so a lot of them would move there. And I think one of the things that was interesting to me is the fact that because they're all from, different countries and everything, but like, think about us as African Americans. We're all just African Americans. It doesn't matter if I'm from New York or necessarily you're from South Carolina, whatever the case is. We have our slight differences and stuff, but when they're from the different countries, there is a prejudice if somebody is from a different country. I know lots of times what I found out was that, and they were called foreigners, even though they were in Africa, but from whatever country they were from, they were treated less than, I would say.
Wow.
Yeah, so that to me was very, very interesting. And the fact that, they were foreigners and, they were not given, the wages that they deserved when it came to money, and earning their living and things of that nature. That part was very, very interesting to me. And we just felt like there was a lot of injustice because, first of all, even when we found out, comparatively speaking, how much, servers made or baristas made or, whatever their job was, it was definitely lower than what we were, the people in the United States would make. But interestingly enough, because of that, even as far as so when everybody has they call helpers. They're not called maids or servants. They'll call them helpers. So pretty much every family, the South Africans family, had somebody that would help them raise their children and things of that nature. So they asked us, you say, don't y'all have helpers? We're like, no. We take care of our own children.
Right.
And if in the United States, if we have a helper or whatever the case is, it's because, we're really, really wealthy for the most part. But a lot of the South Africans did. And then they were from the other countries, the other African countries. And then they, would give them pretty much room and board. Depending on what their job was, if they were at a hotel or something like that, then, they might make a little bit more money or whatever the case is, but still not what, as far as the what they had to do, as far as their attitudes, because they were great when it came to their jobs. So they didn't, what's the word I'm looking for? They didn't half step, I guess, when it came to serving the customers, serving us as Americans.
They had pride in their work.
They had very, 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 very prideful when it came to their work, when it came to, giving top-notch service. And everybody that we encountered. And so that was definitely nice to see. Because when we got back to the States, it was like...
Here we go.
Yeah, here we go.
So it sounds like there was some components over there that were more desirable.
Oh.
And then some components maybe not as desirable.
Definitely so. Definitely so. And that was one of them. So, I enjoyed those interactions. And, of course, they love to ask us questions about the U.S. And everybody actually wanted to come to the U.S. Can you pack me up and take me to the U.S.? Because, it's all about what you see on television. And we look, and we are a wealthy nation, for the most part. And then when they see that, they want to come here. And lots of them, it's very, very difficult to make that transition.
Yeah, the work ethic absolutely is intriguing. Just to see how they may not be making the most money, but just that what I saw in being in Africa was the work ethic was so very intriguing to me, because people would sit for hours at their businesses and maybe get one or two people to come, one or two customers, but yet they sat there, and that one or two that came, they were positive, they were professional, and that was just something that you don't see every day. So absolutely, that work ethic is something different that we saw or that we see in other cultures, that I would love to see a lot more here. Not to say that we don't have it here, but we don't see it as much as I did out there. Yes. It was a consistency in work ethic that I noticed, whether it was in a restaurant or if it was on the street where people had their little businesses, pop-up shops. Just that ethic that we ride by, and 5 or 6 hours later, you'll see them standing there still looking, waiting, hoping. So that was certainly something that I also could agree with. Any challenges when you were living in another country? Any challenges that you faced?
Just my own personal challenges when it came to, waiting sometimes, when it came to, like, anytime we had to do any kind of paperwork, their system is not as, what's the word I'm looking for? When it came to technology,
right?
They weren't as current.
They weren't as current with a lot of their technology. So and we were ready to, go online and be able to
you already have this in the system in the database,
right? And I think that was only it. But and when I said personal challenges, it would be that, first of all, they enjoy life. They really do enjoy life. Even though for them, from the outside looking in, people would think, oh, y'all got it hard, this, that, and the other. No, they enjoy life. And for, us, sometimes Americans, it's like, you want it quick, that type of thing. So that was a challenge. And then just being able to take it, kind of slow, because for me, I couldn't work while I was there, so basically my days were outside of when we would go to, do some of our missional work, but just learning to relax because, and they enjoy one another when they're out restaurants and stuff. In America, guess what you're looking at? You're looking at that cell phone.
Yeah.
You very seldom see people conversating,
Sure.
but they enjoy one another. They sit and they talk and they look at one another,
It's kind of ironic when you say that because then it makes me wonder why they want to come to the country here. So when you tell me,
Yes,
and what
yes.
I'm hearing you describe is people that have found a certain contentment, not that they are looking for a whole bunch of wealth or anything, but they found a certain contentment, and everything doesn't revolve around how fat can I make my pockets.
Exactly.
And then when you said that so many of them want to come to America, I'm like, do they not really understand what the culture and how much of a culture shock that could be?
The high rent,
Yeah.
the
Yes.
microwave mentality,
Yes.
all of it.
Still trying to be an individual business owner and only
Yeah.
getting a couple of people coming
Yeah,
through, and you sit up
yeah.
at one that's like, ooh, if I don't have this money by such and such
Yes.
time.
The housing market.
Yes.
You mean $200,000 houses
Yes.
marked up to $400,000, all that.
Yes.
Yes.
So yes, but I said that to them because I had people that said, I've been trying forever to get my green card. I really want to come to the U.S. and this and that. And I said, listen, I get it. I know what you see, but this is what we experience. I mean, yes, we have it great. I don't want anybody.
It's like
to
any
think
other
that I'm a-
advertisement.
Yes,
You're going to put your
but
best
we-
foot forward, but you better do
There's
your
some
research.
challenges.
Yeah.
Do your research. Yes. All right, listeners, you're listening to Oak 93.5 WRAL. I am your host today, filling in for P. Ross on Chat City. I have with me in the studio Stephanie Knowlin and Will Quick. Will Quick. He is our co-host on today. You can call us if you have some questions for us today. Dial in 919-899-9305. This is Oak 93.5 WRAL. Don't touch that dial on today. Stay tuned and listen. All right.
You're going to make me change my radio handle after saying that.
Yeah, you can be Will Smith.
No. Something that's not related.
So, Stephanie, you talked about your grandchildren and your children, and I know that you do your extensive traveling. You are a servant at heart, so you help everybody you can help, and that's certainly admirable. How do you balance that, though, having your grandchildren and your children, yet doing that side that you love to do, the missions and the caregiving and all of that? How do you balance family in all of this?
Well, I tell you, it is a challenge to do that, and so like while I was away, I did make sure that I interacted with my children as far as FaceTime, calling them.
So you are tech savvy, see?
Yeah, so staying on top of that. Now there were a couple. I did miss about 3 birthdays while I was gone, and so they understand first of all, who I am, and they. Some of the things they say, well, mama, if they're talking about one to one another, well, mama, how mama's going to feel about this, how mama's going to feel about that, those types of things. And so I do have to make sure that, like when I returned, getting in contact with them, giving them a phone call. I sent pictures and videos while I was away. So, they could, know what was going on and what was happening with me. And so when I get back, I usually find time to, go by for Sunday dinner or something like that, and we all kind of get together. My one son and his family, they live in Charlotte, and so that's a little bit more of a challenge. And so I'll somewhere in between, because I was gone 3 months, somewhere in that range, and so I have to, during the holiday, which was probably going to be right in between, somewhere in between there and Christmas, because I decided I wasn't going to go anyplace else until after the new year.
Yeah,
anyway, so we'll see what happens come February, maybe so. But yeah, and between church, they're always appreciative, to when we can get together, and whether it's just on the weekend to go sit and watch some football, which I'm not a big football fan. My son is, and so just last weekend we got together and sat around, put our feet up. My daughter cooked, and we just, a couple of my grandkids were there, and we just watched some football. So, so it's not necessarily the quantity, but it is the quality when we do get together, to try to spend some time together. And so, of course, Thanksgiving is next week. And so even with that, it's like, okay, what's going to be for Thanksgiving dinner? And then we'll just kind of do a smorgasbord of food or whatever the case is. and do that. So, but it's just a matter of, and I do have some flexibility because of my job, and which I tell people that God has given me the ability to, have some flexibility, and that's one of the reasons I'm able to travel and go different places. I'm not locked down to a 9 to 5. So I'm very, very thankful, and I was very, very intentional about having that flexibility. And so, and I've done the 9 to 5 thing anyway, and it's, it's not all it's cracked up to be, but some people have to do it. I understand that, but, and so that gives me flexibility to be able to say, okay, I can hang out with you. My Tuesdays are lighter than, my Fridays are. So we can do something on Tuesday, or we can do something on Thursday, because I've set my schedule up that way. And so that makes a big difference, for me to be able to spend time, with my kids. My son and I'll go to lunch, in the middle of the week. What you got going on today, Ma? Okay, look, we can get together for lunch because I'm free, after a certain time. So it gives me a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, and that is a blessing, just having that level of flexibility and being intentional about it, because we have to be, because of how life is so fast-paced. You have to be intentional about that time spent with family, spent with friends and all of that. I've got a couple of girlfriends that some of them are in Durham, and they work different areas, and so we may be 6-8 months and we'll talk on the phone and never get together. And I'm like, listen, I'm going to take a late lunch today, and I'm going to come to you. Or they'll say, hey, you know what? I'm going to flex my time today, and I'm going to come to you. Just being intentional, even with family, making sure that you spend that time. Yes, I love to go out of town. I love to do missions. But listen, I'm here for you, grandkids. I'm here for you, son. I know you're in Charlotte, but we're going to make it happen. So that's beautiful how you just explain that. You don't necessarily like football, but your son does. So I'm going to be intentional about doing that. Yeah, I don't necessarily like it, but if that means us being together and spending that time, that's what we'll do. So thank you for sharing that. That is so, so important that we be intentional about making sure we balance loved ones and family. Is so very important. Yes, you mentioned the holidays. So any traditions, anything in particular that you all like to do or that you like to do for the holidays? Any special traditions?
Pretty much just what everybody else likes to do. I mean, when it comes to, food preparation and all that kind of stuff, I don't cook as much as I used to.
Who's cooking the potato salad? That's what everybody wants to know.
Right.
Well, I'll be quite honest, it's not me, because I don't do well with potato salad. I was just telling somebody, I don't, the normal traditional foods, potato salad, macaroni and cheese, I don't do very good with either of those.
Okay.
I'm surprised. You're such a good cook.
Well, I don't cook as much as I used to. Like they say,
a little bit out of practice
makes perfect.
But you can get back on that bicycle.
I can, but to be quite honest, that is not a priority this day and time. To be quite honest,
fair enough. And it sounds like you passed it on anyway.
I passed it on. Yes, my daughter.
So they had to learn from somewhere.
My daughter loves to cook, and
she
she takes up the slack now, and she may say, "Ma, can you bring the green beans, or can you bring the broccoli?" Or
does that mean you still get to dip out on cleanup duty?
No, I don't mind doing the cleanup.
No. That used to be something that Thanksgiving.
Yes.
After you eat all that food, nobody don't feel like cleaning up now.
No, I want it. But see, I'm the type of person that once it's all cooked into, I want it to go ahead and be taken care of. And so and lots of times when I would cook, if I could go ahead and clean up as I'm doing,
absolutely.
Yeah, but as far as traditions are concerned, no, I don't. When it comes to, no. Okay. I mean, I don't always get an opportunity to go home. So lots of times, if I don't go to visit my other sisters in the Wilmington area, or if I don't go to my daughters, if they may be they may be with their dad this particular Thanksgiving or whatever the case is, if they are, and they're grown, but they still kind of split the time. So
Sure.
if they go to see him and their grandmother on that side of the family, then me and my other sister, we may go out to get some Chinese food. That's kind of a traditional. We don't have to cook, so we go eat Chinese.
Right. It's funny you say that because my wife talks about doing Chinese food, particularly for Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
And that's one of her things. She enjoys having Chinese food on Thanksgiving. For the longest time, I kept thinking to myself, I said, Chinese food, Thanksgiving. But,
they're
to each his
open.
own.
Yeah.
And you're right, they are open.
Yeah, they're open and have lines of people. And you got
You're
to
right.
think, too,
Yeah.
our nation has become such a melting pot of different nationalities.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't celebrate the traditions that we celebrate.
Correct.
You got so many different people. And so now, it's becoming, now it's like, okay, we're Asian and we don't celebrate, Thanksgiving or whatever. That's not part of our history.
Yeah.
Come on and eat.
We'll be happy to take that money on Thanksgiving Day.
And they will.
Yeah. And so that's what happens. Yeah.
Yeah, and people are kind of getting out of the turkey transit. I mean, turkey, ham, and all that. Sometimes people say, "Listen, I'm gonna have a seafood broil on Thanksgiving or
fish fry."
like fish fry." Yeah, so people are being a little bit more open to different alternatives. It doesn't have to necessarily be what we've always eaten on Thanksgiving Day. It could be something different. But Chinese food, I don't think I've ever heard that. That's good.
So we got a little spot in Cary that we hit up. Depending on what's happening. Yep.
That's amazing. I love it. I love it. I remember the first time we went to one of the things that we do for Thanksgiving, some years kind of alternate, is go to the beach. And I remember the first time we did it, my family, and it was a little strange. And when we did it the first time, not many people did that. Most people wanted to stay home. And then we went, and I got to Myrtle Beach. I saw those people, and I was like, so people do the beach on Myrtle Beach. I mean, the beach
it's called
on
the
Thanksgiving.
outlet at the beach. That's what
So we've been doing that for years, going sometimes every other year. We'll do Thanksgiving at the beach, and it's the same thing. You're just in a different setting. You're in a house at the beach. You're not on your own, and even Christmas. So just changing up some things beyond what we normally do. So I think it's wonderful to think outside the box, to do something different, and all of that.
Being different is a tradition now.
It is absolutely,
You're right.
and there's not a thing wrong with it.
Nothing at all.
All right, listeners, you're listening to Oak 93.5 WRAL. This is Chat City with P. Ross. I am your host today, filling in for P. Ross. I'm Tameka Douglas, and I have with me in the studio Miss Stephanie Knowlin and Will Quick, not Will Smith. I have Will Quick, who's in the studio today, and he is our co-host. Don't touch that dial. Stay tuned. We've got just a few more moments to go. I know that you're liking what you're hearing today, so don't touch that dial. In fact, if you're on Facebook Live, why don't you go ahead and share this now with your followers? So, Stephanie, who's your role model and why?
When I think about a role model, well, I think about my grandmother. My grandmother is still here. She's 106 years old.
Wow.
Man,
If
you
she
all
makes
have
it-
like 5 generations
Yes.
in your family right now?
Yeah.
5, 6?
That is
Yeah, so if she makes it
amazing.
to January the 1st, she will be 107 years old.
Wow.
Oh, that's
Yes,
outstanding.
and just has a rich history. Her mind is still good. She's not mobile, but my uncle and his wife helped take care of her.
That's beautiful.
And I can remember as a little girl, I mean, I've never known her, lots of us, we've had lives prior to salvation. But as long as I've known my grandmother, and I'm 61 years old now, as long as I've known her, she's been a saved woman, and even learning about her history, she can tell me, when she would go to church in a buckboard wagon with her parents,
Yep.
you know what I'm saying, to church, and so she's been, I think she told me since the age of 4, she's been saved or whatnot. But yes, she is definitely a role model. She's, lived a Christian life all of her life. Still, when I go to visit her and see her, and I'll go see her for Thanksgiving, she's like, I say, "Hey, Grandma, how you doing?" And she'll say, "Who is that?" I say, "Stephanie, Grandma." She said, "What you doing here?" She always asks me what I'm doing there. And I say, "How are you doing?" She said, "Well, I'm doing well. The Lord still got me here."
That is
And
such a
yeah, so she is definitely a role model. I can remember she and my grandfather, had a farm. They were entrepreneurs. They would sell fruits and vegetables to the city market like every Saturday. And and she, loved the Lord. Played the church organ at church for 50 plus years. And as a matter of fact, they just did something a few months ago recognizing her as one of the older women that's still living in the community. So yeah, she makes it to January 1st. She'll be 107 years old.
That is absolutely
that's
astounding.
incredible.
Yeah.
Wow. And so she lives with them. She lives with
Yes.
your.
She lives.
That's
She
so
lives with my
amazing.
uncle and his wife. So and unfortunately, well, I mean, it's still a blessing. He's the only child that's still left.
Okay.
My mom is deceased, and he was actually the only boy, and that happens to be the baby. But she's outlived the rest of her children.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
he's
Yes.
still here taking care of her. Yep.
Wow. Well, hats
Yep.
off to them. Hats off to grandma.
Yeah.
Oh, grandmas are special.
Yes,
So I can
yes.
imagine that she is your role model. And I can imagine the stories over the years that
Oh, yes.
she has been able to tell, the
Oh,
advice that
yes.
she can give.
Yes,
Having
and
been here all that time.
all that time, yes. It's funny, and that her memory is still so good. I ran into somebody. We had gone home for a family reunion type thing, and I met one of the family members, and he was telling us something, just a little bit of history about my grandmother's maiden name, and he was telling me that it used to be spelled one way, and it got changed. And I said, "Are you sure?" He's like, "Yeah." He said, "Ask your grandma." So I went right home and asked my grandma.
Yes,
And I
yes.
said, "Grandma, so and so told me that." She told me, "Yep, that's exactly what happened. I went to school and the teacher told me we were spelling it wrong." So they changed it. But she remembered that, that story. I was like, wow. Yeah. So, yeah.
That's amazing. Well, I know that Thanksgiving will be special, just being able to
It
go
will.
and to visit with her.
Yes.
Yeah, I was gonna say you definitely gonna check out Grandma's Thanksgiving.
Yes.
I'm sure.
I will.
And just the recipes that I'm sure she even has been able to
Oh,
share
wow.
along the way. I often tell people, get those recipes. I'm trying to learn even to do that
Yeah.
from these people, because if you don't ever get them, nobody can continue that tradition of that good old sweet potato pie, the
Yes.
whatever it is that they were good at. So that is such a blessing, Stephanie. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
About your grandmother. And I'm sure that is part of how because you're a caregiver, you're a servant at heart, and you seem to just have that gift just in caring for others in such a natural way. So do you think that just being able to kind of be there for family members or just other family members that have been caregivers, where did that come from? Just that innate ability to just be a caregiver?
When I just kind of think about it, even from a small child, I just like helping.
Mm-hmm.
I've always liked helping. My mom liked to help, and my sisters too. They're helpers as well, and so I think that it was just something that was innate that the Lord kind of blessed me with. And because not everybody has that gift.
Yeah.
and so I think as I've kind of grown to the point that I am, and if there's a need and if I can assist, I will. And I love seniors. And I think that's one of the reasons my grandma has my heart. I just love seniors. I love helping, people that are more mature. Because I'm finding myself, I'm getting at the senior stage. So, it is a blessing,
Yes.
and to be able to do that. And so, but not just that. I mean, I had the opportunity to work in the childcare field for a while as well. So, it just kind of wherever, there's a need.
Sure.
And if I can see the need and then, be a blessing to other people, and at the same time, even being a caregiver, the Lord kind of has given me the opportunity to even earn an income, being able to do that, to care for seniors. I have a business called Beautiful Souls. It's
Beautiful
a companion
Yeah, I like
care
that.
business.
Yes.
Yeah, and so I help people. And so it's just kind of evolved into what it is today. So it's a private thing, and I just get my referrals from somebody that knows somebody, pretty much. And but being able to, to share, to build friendships and relationships is just wonderful. You get to know, the person that you're caring for. You get to know their family members and love them and things. And then of course the sad part is if you end up losing one of them. And I did, unfortunately lose one that I had become a companion care person for.
I imagine that makes it hard because having the heart like you do, that means you're invested.
Yes,
that's
and when you. That's an inevitability, but that doesn't make it any easier.
It doesn't. And but it's such a joy, and you get to learn so much.
Yes. Yes.
You get to learn so much about people. Everybody has a story, and you get to learn where they came from when they were young people, and just different things like that.
Experiences and knowledge
yes.
that otherwise would go
Sure.
past generations over.
Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
So it's a true blessing, but I thank God that He blessed me with it, and so it's an honor to serve.
Yes. Now you mentioned Beautiful Souls, your companion business, and one of the things that, and in my line of work that I know that can be kind of difficult is finding people like you with that compassion and care for others. So if someone who were listening now, or perhaps by the replay, wanted to get in touch with you, how would they do that to make a referral? People are oftentimes looking for companion care for their loved ones. How could they best contact you?
Well, my name is Stephanie Knowlin, and I do have a Facebook page, and then my Beautiful Souls is my phone number. I can share that. I'll be glad to share that with you now, and it's 919-802-6648, and just give me a call.
All right. So if you know someone that is in need of companionship for their loved one or caregiving, she's just told you how you can contact Miss Stephanie Knowlin. And I can just certainly let you know that she's a wonderful person. And I know that she can be trusted to care for our most fragile individuals. So again, thank you for just being willing and having that patience that it takes to care for others.
Thank you.
It's to certainly to be admired. And caring for others, and even I know in my line of work, what I have to find myself doing is retreating, taking time for myself, making sure that I take time to steal away and self-preserve. Tameka, what are some of the things that you do for self-preservation and make sure you don't wear yourself out?
Well, one definitely is just my own intimate, quiet time in prayer. Before the Lord. That's definitely a time that I use. And I like to just go to the park sometimes and just walk.
Nature.
Yeah, I love to just go get outside, and Benson Lake is not far from me, and just kind of walk some of the trails and stuff and just breathe the fresh air, enjoy that. And then, sometimes I might take a weekend trip, to just kind of retreat. But, primarily it's, in prayer and spending time in the Word, and just, sometimes just need to breathe, as they say. But and so those are primarily the things that I try to do: stay in the Word, prayer.
Yeah, it's so necessary.
Spend time outside.
So necessary. Take that time for yourself.
Absolutely.
Listeners, you're listening to Oak 93.5 WRLY. I am Tameka Douglas. I am your host, filling in today for P. Ross. This is Chat City with P. Ross. I have with me in the studio today Miss Stephanie Knowlin and Mr. Will Quick, who are here today. If you're listening, you can also call in. Perhaps you have some questions for us today. Go ahead and call us at 919-899-9305. So, Stephanie, do you have any plans as far as travel? I know you said this year you're kind of done with it. So, next year, do you kind of just take it as it comes in 2024?
Well, 2024, I know that I'll probably be going to Kenya again. That trip may be scheduled around the same time, it's October. And so that's pretty much set for right now. It's anything else, I'm not sure, but I'm keeping my calendar somewhat open,
right,
about what may happen. I probably will go back to South Africa again. that's still up in the air as far as a time frame is concerned. So we'll see, kind of what the Lord says, and then it may be a couple of other places that in the near future, probably not 2024. Ethiopia is on the radar that to be able to go to. And then we'll just kind of see what else kind of comes open. And hopefully we'll get a chance to go back to Belize, Tameka.
Yes, Belize is an amazing place. It's beautiful,
I
beautiful.
heard nothing but good things about
It's
Belize.
amazing. We had a wonderful time there. And I wanted to go so bad this year. I wanted to go back so bad. I think about the people there so much, and there's a lot to do there for missions, and then of course vacationing there. Absolutely amazing. The water, the fresh food, all of that. It's an amazing place. So hopefully that will be in my 2024. Yes, I think it's so. I love to travel as well. That's why I love being able to just have this conversation with you all today about that, because I think it's so good to just get out there and explore the world. And that's exactly what I like to do. Now, you talked, Stephanie, a little bit about your divorce, and that was some years ago, but it's something that people face in life. It's an obstacle. How do you, and not only, you don't necessarily have to go into your divorce, but just in life and obstacles that people face. What is it that you would say to our listeners today, some methods to triumph from those things and to get past it and not let it become you or stop you from moving forward and living life?
Personally, I always try to, take it back to, my own personal thing that the primary thing I said would say is that as a believer, I had a relationship with Jesus Christ. And so that is primary, because I feel like, that's where a lot of my hope was, being able to get through this. Now, nobody goes into marriage thinking that they're going to be divorced, later on down the road.
Right.
And so with that, I'll be honest that it wasn't something that, I wanted to go through, but it happened, but God was there the whole way, And so I really had to put my hope, my trust, and my faith in God, in Jesus Christ, to sustain me and to keep me, to get me through. And of course I did have a support network, with families and friends, and and even doing that, I did have to make a slight transition when it came to church, because of just the dynamics. I was actually married to a pastor, and so that dynamic was totally difficult to transition from. So I had to find a whole new church home, church family, that kind of stuff. But God sustained me through it all. He gave me the strength, he gave me the fortitude to branch ahead and to know that it's not the end of the world.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? It's not the end of the world. And sometimes, as wives, as mothers and things, we can get so tied up in our families, in our spouse and things like that we tend to lose our identity. And so it was a situation where I had to totally regroup, find my identity, what he kind of called me to do, because, my life changed. And it did affect my children, even though they were older. They weren't like really small, but it did affect my children. And but I just thank God that my faith, I think, definitely went to another level through the divorce, through the transition and everything. But God he was just so good. He was so faithful, and I got the opportunity to grow into more, even in my walk with him, because I had to trust him, in this transition. And many times we put our trust in our husbands or our wives, and we think that things are gonna, always, go the way that we planned. And sometimes, things occur in life to, change, our trajectory. And that's what happened, for me. But, I can truly say God was there. He kept me, he sustained me. And, and I probably wouldn't be where I am today, and it's not that, as far as where I am maturity-wise, for the opportunity that I had to travel, to experience some of the things that I've experienced, because, now it's like, I have a freedom
Yeah.
that, it's a blessing to be single. Sometimes single people don't think about it like that, but and I can speak because I have been married, but for those who've never been married, they want to get married, they want to experience that thing, you know what I'm saying? But, still take it in stride. If this is where you are, now enjoy it. Enjoy, the opportunity to not have to be responsible for, a husband, or small children or whatever the case is at this particular juncture in your life. But enjoy it. Enjoy the opportunity to serve him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? To be available to him. If he tells you to move to South Africa, if he tells you to move to China, wherever, you can do that as a single person, that you couldn't. But yeah, Tameka, I just say, just be encouraged. You trust God, that he knows exactly what you're going through. You're not alone.
That's right.
And, he's got you. He's got you. I can remember, and I love to share this particular testimony. At one particular point as I was going through just a really hard time, I remember saying, just praying like, God, why, wasn't my love good enough? I remember asking him that.
Wow.
And Holy Spirit, Jesus said to me, he said, why isn't my love good enough?
Wow. That's powerful.
And his love is good enough.
Yeah.
His love is the best love to have.
Mm-hmm.
It surpasses any human love.
It does.
So, love him. He loves you.
That's right.
So love him and trust him with your life, no matter what comes along.
That's right. That is awesome. I know someone out there listening.
On that one, didn't she?
She dropped the bomb.
She dropped one on that one.
Yes. I know that someone out there who's listening has been encouraged by that. You're listening to Oak 93.5 WRLY. Chat City with P. Ross. I'm your guest host today, Tameka. With me in the studio is Stephanie Knowlin and Will Quick. Stay tuned. That was some great advice that you've given us on today. There may be a caller who has a question. Call on in, 919-899-9305. You said so much in that moment. You talked about the importance, because there are some wives who I imagine do kind of get tied up into being a wife, tied up into being a mother, and they forget about them, who they are, what they like to eat, what they want to put on. And so when something happens, should it be divorce or death or anything, then they have difficulty being able to live life because they put their entire life.
Yes.
And this is not to say that as a wife, you don't do your wifely duties and all of that. But I believe that what you're saying in the midst of that is that you can't forget about who you are.
Yes.
And making sure that you're still, in that case, self-preserving you. So you made some wonderful points there. And I love how I didn't know you when you were married. I've heard great things about you then and great things about you now. But I love how you show and you demonstrate through how you live that you can triumph over that through divorce. You can get through that with the help of the Lord. As a single, living life. And it's funny that you said that, because I thought about that today, because there are so many singles who think, woe is me. And I find that oftentimes they're not thinking that because woe is them because they're not married. Oftentimes people perceive that because of the culture, because of what they see on social media, because of the pictures that they see, that they should be in that place. No, you should be right where God has you. And you should live life in that moment to the fullest.
Yes.
If it never happens for you, live life, love you, and be content with where you are. I love being able to say, hey, you know what, I'm going to fly to Belize. I'm going to Africa, and I don't have to tell nobody nothing.
Right.
Make sure that my money is in the bank because I pay my bills and do what I need to do and just go. You know, I do have a daughter, but she's grown now, good and grown. So, it's no children. So
I hope our
I'm
listeners are
thankful.
really paying attention and focusing on the fact of what you said you went through and how you recovered from it. You can expand that multiple times by virtue of being a first lady.
Yes.
Because, I mean, you are very much in the minority in that group to begin with, and the responsibilities that come along with that, most folks will never know.
Never know.
And when you factor that into the choices and the things that took place in your life, and here you are now doing what you're doing, and like you said, when God spoke back to you and said, why isn't my love enough?
That was
Oh, my
deep.
goodness.
That thing was powerful.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, and then just going from that, being a first lady to not, you're not demoted. You still have those qualities to do women. And when I talk about you, I still say the gifts that are in you. You still offer those same gifts as being a first lady. You were a major leader. You're still a leader. You have a lot to offer and things that you can offer to others. All right, we've had a great show today. Thank you for being in the audience with us, Steph. Thank you for being with us on today, Stephanie Knowlin, our co-host on today. Thank you, listeners, for being with us on Oak 93.5 WRAL. And we appreciate you taking out the time today. Enjoy the rest of your evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. All right.
We out.
We are out.